in talking about prayer, and talking about the goodness of God, there's something I would like to say. Sometimes, if we were to speak with a doctor, Dr. Barry, or just any physician, do you realize that he would know much more about my wife than I do? Do you realize that? A physician could sit down and tell me things about my wife that I never knew with regard to how her heart works and how her muscles contract and expand and how well, all the different things about how her body works. He knows more about my wife than I do, than I ever will. He can grasp concepts about my wife that are so far beyond my tiny mind that I'll never be able to know them. But He doesn't know my wife like I know my wife. It's the same thing in everything about God. Especially for the young theologian. You need to understand this. You may be able to quote the Westminster. You may understand the Greek and the Hebrew. And you may read so many books. But do you know Him? You may be able to analyze Him, but do you walk with Him? Do you know Him? Sometimes we're so concerned about knowing all this stuff that we're like the difference between a scientist and a child. My little boy Ian, for example, the kid could pass out from excitement by looking at a white wall. And you stand there and you have this scientist and he's looking at a sunset and he's explaining how the light reflects and all these different things and why these colors occur and why this happens and what exactly the tilt of the earth and the clouds and the atmosphere and everything. And my little boy's just looking at him like, but the colors! He wants an explanation. The little boy just wants to look at the colors. Just wants to see the beauty. Just wants to wonder how God painted such a thing. From where did He get the paint? And what was His brush? It's the same way in so many things about God. You want to know this, you want to know that, you want to... how do you pray? How do you study? How do you do all these things? But the thing that you most need to do is just look and go, wow! Just look at Him. There's such a difference between knowing truth and knowing God. Now, knowing truth is a means. It's part of the journey. It's essential. It's foundational. But it's not the whole thing. It's not the whole thing. And that is why a little old woman in Romania who can barely read the Bible can experience more of the workings and the truth of God than a man who can read it backwards and forwards in the original language.